have that Christ consciousness. It's the consciousness of oneness, oneness with our spiritual nature that is right present here, now. We have been taught through our educational system, through our cultural system, that the world is broken, that the world is wrong, that we got kicked out of the Garden of Eden and had to suffer the rest of eternity in sin and pain because of this stupid apple. You know? Give me a break. There was actually a story about not taking responsibility. You know, God says, I told you not to eat that. And Adam says, she told me to. And she says, the snake told me to. So everybody's blaming it on somebody else. Nobody's taking responsibility. So there's also this ancient Judaic tradition of tikkun olam, which means putting the world back together, which of course assumes that the world is broken, putting the pieces back together. So we assume that the world is broken and that we have to fix it. That was the Judeo tradition that we came up with. And the Christ came and said, maybe not. Maybe the world isn't broken. Maybe the kingdom of heaven is within. Well, what does that mean? That means that if we choose to look at what's right with the world instead of what's wrong with the world, maybe we would see more of what's right with the world. Because whatever we put our focus on, whatever we put our attention on, gets our energy. And whatever is getting our energy, we get more of. So in psychology, for instance, they spent the first 80 years looking at what was wrong with people, abnormal psychology. But then they realized at some point they didn't know what normal was. Because everybody seemed to have all kinds of weird abnormalities going on. Because we're each unique. We don't fit into these little boxes and these little tracks that we're supposed to be on. They said, wait a minute. Maybe we ought to stop studying all the people who are having, terrible, aberrant behavior. Maybe we ought to study the people who seem to be doing well and see what's up with them. Because maybe by studying the people who are happy and successful and joyful and peaceful, we could get more of that. So let's do that. So there's a certain guy right now, and I'm going to post the link on our Facebook page, the Sierra Center Facebook page, that has been exploring happiness for quite some time. He's a Harvard professor, and now he's speaking to businesses and organizations all over the world about happiness, because he's been doing studies on happiness. And he started, really, when he was a child. His name is Sean Aker. You may have heard of him. He did a TED Talk, and that's the link I'll post. But he started out because when he was 7 years old and his sister was 5 years old, they were playing in their bedroom. And they had bunk beds, and they're on the top bunk of this bunk bed. And of course, because his 5-year-old sister, adores her older brother, whatever he wants to do is fine with her. So they're on top of this bunk bed, and they're going to have a battle. And he's got all his G.I. Joes and everything lined up, and she's got all her little ponies lined up. They're going to, have this big battle, and they're on the top bunk, and all of a sudden his sister disappears from the top bunk and falls to the ground. And he looks over the side, and she is on all fours. She has landed on all fours on the ground. And he looks at her and he says, oh my God, human beings don't land on all fours. You must be a unicorn. Now, the little girl, the 5-year-old, who had landed on her hands and knees and was about to scream bloody murder, which would have awakened her parents and gotten her brother in big trouble, even though he had nothing to do with her falling off. He's supposed to be responsible for her being safe. Instead of screaming, instead of crying, she was contemplating being a unicorn. And she immediately climbed back up on the bed and proceeded to play the game. She totally ignored and forgot about any distress she was experiencing and went into, hey, I'm a unicorn. Wow. That's a whole different way of looking at things. And so he decided to study. He went into Harvard, sort of got into Harvard by accident. He went in, he applied on a dare. His parents didn't have any money. Somehow he got a scholarship and he ended up at Harvard. And so he goes into the Harvard, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here. But he realized that all of these other Harvard freshmen coming in, after about 2 weeks, they forget how joyful they felt being there, and all they feel is the competition and the pressure and the stress of having to compete with all these other brilliant people around them. And so he thought, what makes some people successful and what makes some people not successful? So he studied that, and he came up with some strategies. Now, I found out about this guy 2 weeks ago when I was taking that week off and I went down to Santa Rosa. I was there visiting 2 of my ministerial friends who we graduated together from ministerial school. And so they were telling me that they had watched a PBS special with this gentleman, Sean Aker, and they were doing the practices that he had recommended, and that it was really having an impact on their lives. And I mean, they're religious scientists, they're very happy people, they're very joyful people, and hey, you can always get more. And so the first practice is to, every night, they get together. If you have a partner, you can do this, or you can just do it by yourself, which is what I've been doing, is you speak 3 gratitudes for something that day, and not a general gratitude. You're not saying, I'm thankful for my health. No, you're saying, I am so thankful that I can walk without pain, that I can go down, I can hike on a trail, I can walk down the street. I'm just so grateful that I have this capacity to move, on a regular basis. I'm really grateful for that. Or you might say, I'm so grateful that I saw so-and-so at the grocery store today, and I hadn't seen them in such a long time. It was so great to see that person and to experience, how they're doing and catching up. So you're being really specific about something you're specifically thankful for that day. Now, in the case of my friends who are partners, they say that to each other, and they said in the studies that they've done, that partners who do this together find that they are experiencing deeper levels of connection and intimacy from doing this practice. My friend also said that after he had been doing this practice for several weeks, he suddenly discovered that his resistance to practicing the piano went away. He plays the piano, he enjoys playing the piano, but the practicing was like, it's like, no, I'll do it later, and later never came. And so he finally got to the point where, all of a sudden he thought about practicing the piano, and it was like, yeah, okay, I'm practicing the piano. His resistance had disappeared. Something had shifted just from those practices, that practice of speaking in, because the thing is, then you are scanning your daily life not for what's wrong, but for something to be grateful for. You're keeping your eye out for that. And when you're keeping your eye out for something to be grateful for, sure enough, there's all kinds of things showing up. So I started doing this before I go to bed at night. I'm speaking all my gratitudes. And I usually come up with 4 or 5. Because I sort of have to stop myself. Because I could really go on and on. And, that's a wonderful thing to think about things that we're really, truly grateful for in that day. In that day. The second practice is to smile in places you don't usually smile. Now, for my friend Kim, it was at the grocery store. He doesn't smile in the line at people in the grocery store because he thinks that people will think he wants something from them, or maybe they'll think he's goofy. And, you know, he's a doctor of education. He doesn't want people thinking he's goofy. But he's decided to smile in places that he normally doesn't smile, so he's smiling in the grocery line. And he's fine with it. He finds that the more he smiles, the better he feels. And that's actually physiologically correct. When we smile, we absolutely release chemicals in our body that allow us to feel better. Dopamine gets released. So just smiling gets our body in alignment with the good that is there within us. The next practice is called the 10-foot, 5-foot rule. This also has to do with smiling. It says if you are walking, down the street or down a path, down by the NID ditch, wherever you're walking along, and you're walking along, and someone approaches you, at 10 feet away you smile, and at 5 feet away you greet them. Well, they don't have to greet you back, but you just say, hi. Hey, how you doing? Just greet them. You're being connecting, friendly, smile. So Joyce and I, Kim's wife and I, we practiced that in Armstrong Woods. We were taking a walk, and we're walking through the woods, and so 10 feet away we smiled, 5 feet away we greeted. Next thing you know, we're taking pictures of people, they're taking pictures of us, we're having big conversations about where you're from, and da-da-da-da-da. It was like connection. And we love connection. We love connection. Because it's just manifesting what's true already. We're connected. But it's acknowledging that connection, recognizing and realizing that connection. So, the fourth practice is doing 15 minutes a day of fun activity involving movement. We're not going to call it exercise. We're going to call it a fun activity involving movement. So it could be exercise, it could be dancing, put on a piece of music, just dance, go for a walk with a friend, just do something fun, 15 minutes. He was saying it was very interesting that the people who tell us to exercise, all these doctors, are the worst. They don't exercise. He found this doctor who's a sleep specialist who tells people you get your 6 to 8 hours of sleep every day. And he said, do you get 6 to 8 hours? He said, are you kidding? I'm up all night watching people sleep. So, he doesn't get any sleep. He looks 10 years older than his age because he never gets any sleep. And sleeping that 6 to 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours actually makes you live longer. It actually allows you to live a longer, fuller life. So yay. So 15 minutes of fun activity. The fifth practice is the daily doubler. And that is you think about something that occurred during your day that was enjoyable. And you write it down in great detail and specificity. So you're writing down something that you enjoyed that day. Okay? Now what you're really doing there is you're creating an enjoyment journal. Uh-oh, somebody didn't turn their cell phone on. Nice little whistle. So you're writing down this good thing, this enjoyable thing. You're creating this enjoyment journal, so you're realizing the kind of thing you enjoy. Because we don't think about what it is we enjoy. So what are you enjoying? And the thing is, as we focus on looking for things we enjoy, what are we going to do? We're going to have more enjoyable experiences because we're figuring out what we enjoy. And then we'll be doing more of that because we enjoy it, makes us feel good. We're in joy when we're enjoying ourselves. So that is another practice. So we're creating our enjoyment journal by writing with great specificity something we enjoy. And then the sixth practice is that every morning when you go in and you log on your computer, the very first thing you do is send a note of appreciation to someone. You send an email appreciating someone in your life. If you don't have an email, you could send a card, but mail it that day. Mail it that day. So you are practicing appreciation for the people in your life. And of course, when I got back from Santa Rosa that following week, boom, I had an email. So, saying how much they appreciated my visit, and, it was great to have friends like me and like them, So I immediately sent a note of appreciation back to them because, hey, this could be a virus of appreciation going around the world. So, writing a note of appreciation. So we have the speaking our gratitudes. We have our smiling in places we don't normally smile. We have our 10-5. 10 feet we smile, 5 feet we greet. Fourth practice, we do 15 minutes of fun activity. Fifth practice, the daily doubler, where we're writing down something we enjoyed. And then first thing in the morning, we're getting up and we're sending a note of appreciation. People's immune systems improve. Optimists get more optimistic. Pessimists get optimistic. They've done studies, and that this actually changes your body chemistry. This focusing on the good, this focusing on what's right in the world, not what's wrong in the world. We can get what's wrong in the world from so many places. Don't need to look there. We can look and recognize the good that is all around us if we will but see it. And the thing is, remember, the kingdom of heaven is within. It's about what are we looking at? What are we putting our attention on? What are we focusing on? What are we bringing into our energy that is attracting more of that into our experience? So we're looking for the joy because it's who and what we are. Now the thing about this is, information is not transformation. We got to act on this information in order to make it happen. So pick one of these practices. Pick one and do it for 21 days and just see what happens. If after 21 days it becomes more of a habit, and so after the 21 days, if that becomes incorporated into your life, then you can pick up another practices and try that. And you can eventually incorporate them all if you wish, but I'm just letting you know transformation happens. I've only been doing this since the 17th of March. I've been doing the gratitudes out loud every night, just that practice. And interesting things happen, like with my friend Kim and the piano. All of a sudden, I don't have to have ice cream every night. And believe me, that's a big change. That was like my evening treat, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have my ice cream. And I'm not even thinking about ice cream. It's like, oh, I'm not thinking about ice cream. I don't need to give myself a treat. Something has shifted. This stuff works. Very interesting. Okay, so I just invite you to remember that joy is. Joy is. Just like love is and peace is in that reality with a capital R, the source of us, the immortal part of us that goes from this plane into ever-evolving planes is love, is peace, is joy. And so we're being willing to accept that joy, to accept that love, to accept that peace. Because sometimes when we think about getting more joy in our experience, we say, oh, I'm not worthy of joy. So, huh? Yes, you are. Immortal being, child of God, one with the beloved. Yes, worthy of more joy, more love, more connection. Absolutely. Absolutely. No question. So we're letting go of any feelings of not enough. We're letting go of not worthy. We're letting go of any of that stuff. We're letting go of broken. We're letting go of wrong. We're letting go of any mistakes that have been made, because no mistakes have been made, because they brought us right here, right now, where we can move into joy, love, peace, abundance. Right here, right now. So I invite you to say after me the affirmation from our founder, Ernest Holmes. Everything necessary to the full and complete expression of the most boundless experience of joy is mine now. Everything necessary to the full and complete expression of the most boundless experience of joy is mine now. Everything necessary to the full and complete expression of the most boundless experience of joy